So for most of us, I suspect, it's been a while since we have fallen in love. Yeah, I don't know, maybe some of you are in new relationships where you recently fell in love, but I have a feeling that for most of us, it's been a minute. And, but I bet that when you think back to that time, just think back to that time when you felt that love, that profound love, profound. Do you remember that moment? How it touched your heart, how it opened you? Or that moment when you brought your first child into the world. I suspect that love is the same. In that moment when you're feeling that love, nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered. It's in those moments when we are connected to the divine. We're connected, deeply connected to Spirit. And everything else just falls away. You notice that? Everything else falls away. You know, Rumi wrote a lot about the relationship with the beloved, and Rumi talked about the beloved being both divine and human. In the Sufi tradition, human love is seen as the doorway to divine love. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because when we feel that level of human love, it connects us. It connects us to our divinity so profoundly that it awakens us. It awakens us to something greater. So Rumi says it best. Rumi says, lose yourself in this love. When you lose yourself in this love, you will find everything. You will find everything. And why is that? Because we surrender. In that moment, we're completely surrendered. And when we're falling in love, we are seeing through the eyes of God. We are seeing as God. And in that moment, there's no annoyances, there's no irritations, those come much later. There's no imperfections, right? There is just love in its purest form. It's extraordinary, really. Movies and books have given us a very distorted view of what love is, haven't they? I don't know about you, but I don't remember seeing a rom-com where they talked about divine love. Now, I might be wrong, and if you know of a film, let me know. But I suspect if you do, it's a spiritual film. Yeah, and so we've all grown up in a society where we've gotten these pictures of what love is. And so we forget how to fully embody this thing called love as sacred presence. We forget. As babies, when we come into this world, they embody it fully. But then we forget. We forget. But because we all have experienced it, at least once in our life, we can return. We can return if we choose. So the opportunity is there for all of us to figure out a way to get back, to embody love as sacred presence. Because in truth, everything we need is right here. So it's not about needing to fall in love to experience it. It's all right here. We don't actually need anything external to us in order to experience it. So when we are embodying love as sacred presence, we are indeed seeing through the eyes of the divine. When the divine looks at the world, the divine doesn't think, when the divine looks at an event or a situation or a person, the divine does not think, well, if this thing changed over here, then I will love them more. If this person was kinder, if this person was more inclusive, if this person was more compassionate, if this person just would wake up, then I will love them more. Can you imagine? No, the divine doesn't do that. The divine just embraces and accepts all exactly as they are and trusts that every event and every situation is exactly as it needs to be, because the divine knows that everything is in divine right order. Everything. Everything is in divine right order. Each person, has their own agenda as a soul, if you will. And so souls come here sometimes to be instigators. Catalysts may be a better word. Catalysts to wake us up. Some of you have people in your life that are doing that very thing. As much as you may be resisting it, yeah, I see a hand in the back. Okay. Maybe it's our pets are here to wake us up too sometimes, yeah. Drive us crazy. Others come here as healers, not as Reiki masters, not as shaman, not as gurus. They come here as healers to bring forth all that is unhealed within us so that we can look at it, so that it can be seen, so that it can be faced. And so every situation is here for the learning of every individual, of all the individuals involved. And sometimes that means that things happen for an entire nation, for an entire country, for an entire world. Do you remember COVID, this thing called COVID? It affected our entire world. Everything is in divine right order, even if it doesn't look that way. Yeshua and the Way of Mastery, a wonderful book called The Way of Mastery. It says this: in your ordinary moments, 1,000 times each day, you'll be confronted by opportunities to be disturbed. And in that very same moment, you are given the blessing of the opportunity to remember to cultivate a perception of your brother or sister that is a perception birthed out of the Christ mind, not the egoic mind. So every day we are given these opportunities to either choose the Christ mind or the egoic mind. Now the Christ, we associate Christ with this man called Jesus, but Christ was not his last name. Christ is actually a consciousness. It's a consciousness. And so the Christ mind is something that we can all choose to embody and to express if we choose. Because Christ is not a man, it's a principle. It's a principle. And so when we express the Christ mind, we are, in a sense, embodying love as sacred presence. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Ernest Holmes, our founder, he said, we have the mind of Christ, which means that each one of us has immediate access to the intelligence of the universe. I'm going to say that again because I think it's important. We have the mind of Christ, which means that each one of us has immediate access to the intelligence of the universe. We have immediate access to the intelligence of the universe. How extraordinary is that? Think about that. We think that it's based only on our education, what we've learned in this life. We have immediate access to the intelligence of the universe because we are imbued with Christ's mind. We have access to all things. And so the Christ mind is this other way of saying that love is as sacred presence. Embodying love as sacred presence. So throughout our day, we can ask ourselves, am I expressing the Christ mind or am I expressing my egoic mind? Am I expressing the Christ mind or my egoic mind? Now I want to pause for a moment because I'm saying words that I know can be triggering for some. You know, I suspect that many who come to our philosophy, I know many who come to our philosophy and our center come here because they are moving away from organized religion. They're not interested in organized religion. They're interested in more of a spiritual path than a religious one. How many would say, yes, this is why I'm here? Yes. Speaking to the choir. And so you come to places like this because you want to move away from words like God and Jesus and Christ. But here's the thing. Spiritual maturity asks us to look at our relationship with each one of these. To look at our triggers, to look at our judgments, to look at our discomfort with each one. I was fortunate in my upbringing that I wasn't raised with any religion. And so as I moved along my path, I got to choose freely without any baggage. But I recognize and know that there are some, and maybe some in this room, who were raised in a religion that felt damaging and harmful. And so the instinct is to move as far away from that as possible. But spiritual maturity invites us to step into our healing, to look at our fears, and to be with our discomfort. You know, I gave somebody an assignment in our congregation recently. This was somebody who actually sent me a message and wanted to leave our community because they kept hearing the word God. So my invitation to them was to have a breakthrough in it. My invitation to them was to heal their relationship with it so that when they hear it, there's no longer a trigger. And I offered to work with this person one-on-one so that there could be some healing there. And I am willing to offer that healing and that support to anyone here. And the reason I'm willing to offer that is because I think this is incredibly important for our journey. Not so that you can use the word God and Christ and Jesus in a sentence every day. Not that. Some of you have words that you use instead, and that's okay, I honor that. But so that when you hear those words, whether you hear them here on Sunday or you hear them somewhere else, there's nothing but peace within your heart. Total peace. So love as sacred presence asks us to face hard things. It asks us to be willing to examine all the things within us that still need some attention and healing. And to heal them with great compassion and great joy so that we can experience more of the sacred. If there are things in us that are blocking us from being able to be at peace in our life, it interferes in our ability to actually experience the sacred in a big way. So then the sacred becomes less of an intellectual exercise and more of something that we can fully embody. And so why do we need to do this thing? Why do we need to experience the sacred? Why is it important? So that we can live less in the energy of judgment, less in the energy of duality, less in the energy of separation, less in the energy of us and them. When we are living from that sacred presence, there is no such thing as us and them. There is no such thing as judgment. There's no such thing as duality. And then there's true freedom. We then can experience true freedom in our heart, in our being, in our mind. So when we are embodying love as sacred presence, when we are living it, when we are being it. There is no judgment. There is no condemnation. There is no energy of right and wrong. Now, some of you might be thinking, but wait, hold on, but this person over here is wrong. What they're doing over here is wrong. What this population of people over here are doing is wrong. But here's what I invite you to look at. As soon as our mind goes there, we have now stepped into duality. We've now stepped into separation. We've now stepped into judgment. We've stepped out of the sacred and we have stepped into the profane. And what I mean by the profane is the world of judgment, the world of the ordinary, the world of the human experience. We cannot look at something and say that it's wrong and remain in the Christ mind. Now, I am not saying that there aren't things in this world that are wrong, or that we shouldn't stand up for the things in the world that are wrong, that we shouldn't stand up for the injustices in the world, that we should just turn a blind eye. That is not at all what I am saying. But today is about learning how to embody love as sacred presence, as a tool to put in your toolkit. Do you know you all have your little spiritual toolkits, I'm assuming, that you carry with you? This is one of them. So to practice embodying it, no matter what is happening, to practice looking at the injustices of the world, and to practice holding that sacred presence, to practice seeing through the eyes of God, through the eyes of that Christed presence, that Christ mind. How would your life change, you think, if you walked through the world holding that sacred presence? How would you interact with others? How would you engage with yourself? How would you treat others? How would you communicate? How would you walk through a room? If you held that presence, that sacred presence. You know, we may be more spiritual. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. You've all heard that, I suspect. But we are still living a human life. So we may practice embodying love as sacred presence, but because we are living in a human life, likely we're going to fall off from time to time. Living in that sacred presence isn't possible in every moment. If we did, we would forget to brush our teeth, we would forget to eat, right? We would forget to feed our pets. My cat would just scream at me. He does that anyway. So, but are you willing to make some adjustments? Are you willing to make some adjustments? Some adjustments to your perceptions. Some adjustments to your judgments. Are you willing to work with your mind? To notice when your mind takes you to that place of judgment. To notice when your mind takes you to that place of us and them. To notice when your mind gets swept up in the negativity of the world. To catch yourself. On Friday night, I attended a wonderful talk here in town by a Buddhist nun by the name of Jen Kelsang Gamlam. And she talked about this very thing. It was a very science of mind talk. She talked about the power of the mind. And she said 2,600 years ago, the Buddha said the way to solve our problems is through the mind. Imagine that. 2,600 years ago, long before Jesus was ever on the scene, Buddha said the way to solve our problems is through the mind. And she said that we have to learn how to control the mind if we want to be happy. if we want to experience happiness, if we want to experience peace. And she read from a book called Modern Buddhism, and she said this: problems arise only if we respond to difficulties with a negative state of mind. Therefore, if we want to be free from problems, we must transform our mind. If we want to be free from problems, we must transform our mind. She said, problems are going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. They're not going to go away as much as we would like them to. They're not going to stop. And so she encouraged us to keep working with the mind, to transform the mind. And she said, we try to control the things out here, thinking if this person changes, or if this thing in the world changed, or if this thing over here changed, or my boss changed, or my spouse changed, then I will feel at peace. And she said, that's not where the work is. The work is in here. The work is in our mind. Catching ourselves when we overreact. Catching ourselves, noticing when we get attached to some outcome. Catching ourselves when we slip into that negative mind. And of course, she said to practice with meditation and breath to bring ourselves back. Another 2 tools to add to your toolkit. And afterwards, she and I chatted, and we were talking about, I shared with her a little bit about our philosophy, and I said, we're very much in alignment with what you shared today. And I said, it's so simple, isn't it? We talked about how simple it is, and yet how we all forget. We all forget. And that's why you're here today, so that I can keep reminding you and reminding myself, because I forget too. Ernest Holmes, our founder, he talked about the exact same thing. And he said that when we change the focus of our attention, when we change our perception of something, when we change our thoughts about something, everything changes. Suddenly, we're experiencing it differently. And when we experience it differently, what then happens? We feel differently. And when we feel differently, what then happens? We act differently. And when we act differently, what then happens? We feel differently. And when we feel differently, we act differently. And it just keeps going. And it all starts with making a different choice. We all know the power of this. You wouldn't be here if you didn't already know this. Again, I'm just here to remind you. So when we shift our awareness, when we choose to live from the sacred, that is a choice that we are doing for our mind. When we choose to live from the sacred, it impacts everything, does it not? So embodying love as a sacred presence is a choice. It's simply a choice. A choice that we get to make every day, every moment. And it impacts how we move through the world. It impacts how we interact with each and every person. It impacts how we treat each other. The spiritual leader of our parent organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, Reverend Sonny Cantrell Smith, said this: love becomes sacred, not simply through intention, but through embodiment. We realize love not in abstraction, but how we speak, how we listen, how we engage in meditation with ourselves and in dialogue with others. Love asks something of us. It calls us to be present, to be accountable and aligned with Spirit. Love asks something of us. Not to just enjoy the feeling of love, but to embody it. To begin to see the world through the eyes of the divine, through the eyes of God. I talk a lot about love and to be that loving presence in the world because it is important. And I think as spiritual people, we all long for a day when we live in a world where there is peace, where people are loving to each and every person. But love as sacred presence goes beyond wanting a loving world. It's how we walk through the world. It's how we treat each other. It's what we think. It's how we be. It's the presence that we bring. It's the presence. And so I invite you right now to bring into your mind, into your heart, an area in your life that you are struggling with. Just gently closing your eyes and just bringing that area into your life. It might be something happening in the world that's really pulling at your heart. Or it might be something happening in your personal life. Just bringing that into your heart. And in this moment, right here, right now, choose. Make that conscious choice to see it as through the eyes of the divine. Embody love as sacred presence. Feel that in your body. Embody it. Allow that love to fill your heart, to emanate from your being, and to surround that situation. To fully envelop it. Feel the embodiment of love moving through your being. And trust and know that as you do that, you are transforming. You are transforming your relationship to this situation in your life. Choose in this moment to feel and embody love as sacred presence. And there's no right way to do this. Just trust. Trust that as you tune into this, as you feel into this, that it is moving through you in the exact perfect way, surrounding and supporting that area of your life that you are focused on, transforming it, even just a little bit. And allow that love as sacred presence to continue to expand within you, washing over you, ever so gently. Dissolving any places or spaces within you where you are holding any negative thoughts about this situation. Dissolving any places and spaces within you where you are holding any negative beliefs, any old stories about this situation that no longer serves you. As we use the Christ mind, as we use that, we can connect to that infinite intelligence of all that is. And therefore we know exactly what next step to take, how to approach this situation in our life, how to engage with this situation in our life. Feel this sacred presence dissolving and transforming this situation right before you. Know that it is indeed simple. As we change our mind, as we change our thoughts, as we change our perceptions, it changes and alters and transforms what it is that we are experiencing in our life. Believe this, know this deep within your being. Choose in this moment to be love as sacred presence. Choose it right here, right now. To be that for yourself, for your life, for those that you love, for this community, for all those who are hurting. Choose to embody love as sacred presence in the face of every injustice in this world. Every single one. Choose in this moment to let go and become one with that sacred presence. And now as you hold that love as that sacred presence within you, see it as a light brighter than any light you have ever seen. Just feel that light within you emanating. And allow that sacred light to emanate from you to fill this space, touching each and every person who is here, expanding to include all of Fort Collins, all of Colorado, our entire nation, our entire world. Choose to be love as sacred presence, right here, right now. And feel that love as it emanates from your being. And as you do that in this moment, you are choosing to see as God sees. Know this, feel this, allow this. And so as we gently come back, know that embodying love as sacred presence is simple. It's a practice that we can do, that we can bring into our life. We can carry it in our toolkit and return to it to support not only our life and those that we love, but we can support the community, our nation, and our world. Now, always, and forevermore. And so it is.